Oh, we have a new Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Emo Cage.
Nick Cage. We have Emo Cage has made his return.
Oh,
I even did the nails this time.
do you feel like a man?
This is my last rhythm. I've been watching some shows.
Oh yeah,
Definitely where you're going down that trail of, right? Yeah.
What shows are you watching?
So I'm in. I guess I'm in a little bit of a sci-fi. Like I was gonna say, slump was the only word that came to mind, but a little bit of a sci-fi tunnel now. I'm trying to finish The Expanse, which I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it was a pretty big one a while ago. I don't know how long ago. It was a show that was big. It's a book series, first foremost, and then it got turned into a show. It got canceled after like 2 seasons, and then Mr. Bezos was a big fan of the show, so Amazon picked it up and ran it for like 4 more seasons. And I'm in the Amazon years right now, and it's interesting. It's really cool because it's a sci-fi show where they do like different they actually have like realistic space things happening, which sci-fi stuff doesn't. But like there's like it's some stuff as simple as like, the no sound in space.
Yeah.
Like there's no sound in space. Like they just try to follow physics. So like when they're moving around on these ships, if they have to like stop them or anything like that, they're like, sorry, here's a better example. In a spaceship, when you have a bunch of tools, when you go into 0G, you know what happens to those tools?
What happens?
They go everywhere. Like they just leave. Like they're not like gonna stay still, right? Like gravity, nothing is holding them down, so they're just gonna go everywhere. So in this show, a thing that happens a lot is like if something happens to mess up something, or somebody literally doesn't like secure a locker all the way, it will literally just be like a new big problem that they have, because now there's just tools flying around.
Things everywhere,
yeah, and they're also humans that have glass, like, tanks, face masks, so stuff like that. If a tool hits their face mask and cracks it, they're dead. So it's like a mundane thing that in the show is like really emphasized because they're trying to be like realistic, but it makes these realistic, like tiny things, really scary moments, which I do appreciate so much in the show.
It's kind of funny. It's also a little like I bet it's thrilling in context, but like thinking about it out of context is really funny. Just like really mundane things being very dangerous.
Oh yeah, like literally, there was an episode where, like, for maybe spoilers, whatever, is kind of a small part, but like one of the dangers that they had for like it was like 10 minutes or 15 minutes for them to solve was because before they took off, somebody just didn't secure a locker. And tools just went everywhere, and now it was like everyone was under threat. Yeah,
my homework.
Crazy.
Ah! What am I gonna tell my teacher today?
So this is why when you're, in the show, when you're looking into designing spaceships, like there's a few different methods they have, similar to magic decks and commander decks, right? 2 of the methods used in both, I believe, spaceship design as well as commander design is top-down versus bottom-up design.
Top-down versus bottom-up.
Yeah.
You think they do that in spaceship building? You think so?
I was just kind of going with it to just kind of fit so I could transition that. But maybe. I don't know. I'm not a rocket scientist. Who knows?
I can't prove you wrong. So. What is this top-down, the bottom-up deck building philosophy you got going on here?
So I'll go over this briefly, but I do recommend checking out a quick video that MtG Goldfish did on it. It's like a 5-minute video that is just a very drawn, like a very like clear, pictured out top down versus bottom up.
Okay.
But the simple terms of it is that a top down design for a commander deck is where you pick a commander and then you start adding cards to the deck to then like play with said commander. So like you're scrolling through EDH Rec, looking through the top commanders, and you're like, oh, that guy looks neat. You just pick that and you just start adding cards to the deck, and you go there from there. Starting with the commander, you then top down, grab your cards and go into there, and you get to your strategies later on. So your win cons, everything like that, you're adding kind of like last to the deck, whereas everything else you're adding first.
Yeah, you're looking at a commander and you're kind of saying like, this is interesting. It works with like treasures really weirdly, or like this deck, or like a previous card we reviewed is like, this works really well with counters and stuff. You can add more counters to things. So I want to build a deck that's like putting +1/+1 counters on it, or I want to put random everything counters on them or something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it is. And then to go into the opposite of that, the bottom up is the opposite way of designing it. So you're actually choosing cards. Like you're basically, a lot of times the way you do this bottom up design is you start with a unique mechanic or something. So you're like, hey, I've wanted to make a, let's say, I don't want to say like stacks. I want to say like something specific, like a mutate deck or something like that. You want to make a mutate deck, which might be a little too specific too, because there's not too many cards that synergize with it.
Okay.
But if you want to do something that uses a specific strategy, you start with that strategy and you pick some cards that you're like, oh man, these cards really like work around this strategy for me, and this is like how I want to see the deck. And then you actually add like your commander later down the road, and you add your other like your, you start with an idea and a game plan, and you move on to the other cards that you add to it. You move into like your commander at the end. So you're basically like building a ship and then looking for a pilot.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like you essentially have this like blueprint of like what you want to actually do, and then you'll end up filling the shoes with like the more what is it? Qualified candidates to pilot it. Yeah.
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 Because you know exactly what the deck's doing now. Right. So now you can look for the most qualified candidate for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this, like, because this is definitely like, I think you can have fun doing both things, and I think I definitely have more experience in the would it be the former of that, because I build a lot of commanders, like commander decks based all around the commander most of the time. Like I have a bunch of tribal decks, and I have Jury, for example, is a prime example of that. Jury is literally like the win con of the deck, so the deck has to very much facilitate that strategy. Yeah, but I also am really intrigued and like fascinated by the idea of like coming up with a concept and then coming to the conclusion that this, like, quote unquote, this commander is like the best commander for this strategy or whatever. Something I definitely don't have a lot of experience in, and I want to explore that a little bit more. I recently did it with Aloro. That was just a concept I wanted to do for a long time. Like I was like, we have a lot of like pinging like damage for like just playing Magic. I was like, why don't I make a life gain?
Slug,
I was like, maybe I just make a life gain deck. And like I was looking at like win cons, like how do you actually win with a life gain deck, and then came to the conclusion of the Aetherflux Reservoir thing, and then I was like, but I had no idea who to pick as a commander, so I had to ask around, and eventually came to Loro, which was a really easy choice. To be fair, it's like a really easy choice.
He's really good at that.
And I bet you I could probably pick some other commanders, and it might work just as well. But that's where we're at right now with it.
Yeah. No, I find it really interesting you said that, because before going into this topic, I did not think that I had ever built a bottom-up deck.
Yeah.
And now it's funny because my mentality going into it, a little bit of a spoiler, I think that the bottom-up method is like a pretty much better way to build the decks. We can go into that a little bit later, but it's funny because I've never really built a deck that way. I just, concept-wise, it makes the most sense to me. But the deck that I actually built that was Quain, because the reason my Quain deck came to be was because we had another player in our pod that was building a Perforos deck that was too strong for the pod, and it was just murdering everybody and bludgeoning everyone. So I decided to build a deck to counter Perforos. So I wanted to get I just knew it needed to have white in it because I needed to have life gain and remove enchantments and exile enchantments specifically, not just destroy them. So I just built this deck completely based around that, and Quain came in later. Yeah. But it was literally just supposed to be a group hug deck that, like, if he was playing Perforos, I could play Quain, and then the deck would, like, it would basically just let the other two decks play the game. That was the goal of the Quain deck, was to make sure that you could live with Perforos.
And do you still enjoy your Quain deck to this day?
I do. I've tuned it around a lot, and I've tuned it away from being completely just anti-Perforos into a more functioning deck.
Yeah.
But I do very much enjoy it. It's actually the one that I bring to the table when I don't know what people are playing. If I need to judge a group and how, like, what decks I should be playing, how powerful we're playing, I will bring Quain to the table because I have interaction. And I have win cons, even though they're kind of few, but I can kind of just be an observer with the deck and just let people play the game.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, how about you? You've been playing that Aloro deck a lot recently. I don't know if you've gotten to your final, like, kind of thoughts and ideas on it.
I think it's still kind of in the works. I think I've played a few games, but it still feels like I'm not sure where I want it to be at. I think I'm coming to the conclusion I want it to be my next bracket 4 deck, but like lower bracket 4. Kind of like in that maybe like 7 to 8 power range, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am really enjoying it because it's doing the thing. It is doing the thing. It hasn't really won yet, but it is doing the thing, and so I think I'm there. Like I'm at a good point with it where like I just need a little bit more oomph to it, maybe a little bit more ramp, maybe like you guys were mentioning in the last session where maybe I could add a bit more tutors to make it a little bit more streamlined. And less janky of just like, oh, I drew like 13 cards, but I still can't win, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. This is a real story.
Yeah. So, but I think the main takeaway of it was that it was really exciting to actually like have an idea of what I want to do with the deck, and like then it was kind of paralyzing though at first because it was the first time I've ever picked a commander after already building the deck. So I was like, I don't know who to pick. I'm like, should I pick this commander or this commander? And it was like at some point you just like I had to just choose something. But yeah.
Yeah. I have another question for you that I want to save for later because I think it's on topic with this, but I do want to ask with this, like, I want to say something, I guess, first. I think with those decks that you build that way, one of the reasons I think it is a better way of building, not that either way is wrong, but the reason I think it is a little bit better is I think this was the way with Queen.
And there is a wrong way. There, I will tell you right now.
If you think the decks that are built bottom,
if you think your deck built top down is good, rethink it.
Yeah. I do think there's some downsides to top down.
I'm just gonna scrap Jury. You know what?
Tangent to that.
I'm just gonna scrap Jury. You know what? It sucks. It's a shitty deck.
Well,
get rid of it.
One thing, it's there. Okay, I'll go to that in a second. I have another one, but to stay on this one with bottom up, I think those decks come to the table put together better, and it's not like like they function as a deck like better than you do, because when you're building from the top down, your focus is so heavy on like the commander and like a lot of synergy cards, and then your other cards are just kind of there to synergize with the commander a lot and less with the game plan. Whereas if you build around a game plan from the get-go, those cards that you're adding to that they don't care about the commander. They don't care what's there. You're just building so the deck as a whole functions, and then you add the commander on top. So when you build that way, as soon as you bring it to the table, it's going to work. Where I don't know if you're like me, but I've brought so many decks to the table where I've built top down, and they just literally don't work. Like they do not function as a whole.
No, that's definitely happened. I think like you might be onto something there though. Like their floor is probably a lot higher at first because you have that consistent factor of your commander's always going to do the thing the commander says because it's right there, and then you play it and it does the thing. Weird, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it has a piece of consistency, right? So like you always have that, at least that one chunk of your deck. So I think more often than not your deck will probably function if you play it with the commander in mind first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we can go into then too is like the downsides of building top down is something we've talked about a little bit in the past too, but there's having your having your deck be too commander focused is a problem that you and I both have had when building decks, where we end up like we build this deck, and I think you and I both specifically went into like a time where we were like, I want to build a deck that's non-commander focused because I think better decks are not focused around the commander because it just makes it function better. So we both tried doing this, and I utterly failed. I made a Y'shtola deck that was purely based around Y'shtola being on the board because she's just so good when she's on the board.
Yeah.
It was just so commander focused.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one pulled out in a while.
It's been a few weeks. I still like the deck, but it's not a high functioning deck. It just does its thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But no, I think that is definitely a trap you could fall into when you're building it top down like that, whereas you don't run into that from the bottom up.
Right. And it's like, as soon as like your commander gets removed, the game's so hard to play if you have like such a commander focused deck, I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I think that was the trap that I didn't want to fall into anymore because I'm sick of like, just like, oh, I played my commander. Oh, it got removed. Okay, I guess I can't do anything. I'll just wait till I can cast it again. And,
yeah.
It's nice to have options.
Well, it is nice to have options. And that actually leads me into my question I had for you from before. have you thought about switching commanders with Oloro then? Because you've been playing the deck for a while. You're like, it works, but it doesn't work great. Like, you want to switch it up. Have you thought about changing out the commander to just see how it functions with somebody else?
100%. Yes. I just don't know what I would switch it out with is the issue. Is like Oloro just does the, like, I guess one of those things where I might have to just like sacrifice strength to make it a little bit more like flavorful, maybe. I don't know. Because like I just don't see how, like, Oloro has the life gain trigger that you want to get life that you need, and then you also, when you summon it or when you cast him, he comes out and like gives you draw power.
Playing too much Yu-Gi-Oh.
Too much Yu-Gi-Oh these days. We did have a draft recently, so I got it on the mind. But yeah, it's really hard to choose because it just right off the bat gives you everything you need at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So
that's something I think it's interesting though with this, like the bottom up design, because with that you can bring in like, so your commander right now is kind of like just a general life gain. Like what he does is get you that life gain trigger, but then that's it. So he's like a very like, he'll just generally fit in most decks like that.
Yeah.
But you have the option if you wanted to, if you found another commander that did like something almost as good, but then also had a hyperfixation in like another area, or like did something else, you could then pretty easily like tune your deck to include the other stuff, like just leave the stuff that you have in there and remove like maybe 5 to 10 cards, maybe at the most, to then tune it towards another commander.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a very neat thing that you mostly only get from those bottom up builds where you're just executing the game plan and then you're now just tuning the game plan to a new commander.
That's true, because if you do top down, yeah, the deck is very synergized based on that commander, and then if you swap out the commander, it's hard to really use the deck name out, right? You can find similar commanders probably and maybe slot it in, but yeah. But yeah, with Oloro, it's like I was always thinking about ways to maybe make a way to like counteract or like be like, I've heard this concept of like counterbalance commanders from the, what was it, Solnorius Snail? I don't know how to pronounce his name anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. So I
think it's Salubrious
Snail.
Salubrious.
Yeah, he had a video on like counterbalance commanders where his commander didn't necessarily actually synergize at all with the deck, but it did kind of like a thing where it would help complement it in a way. Which I think would be a really cool thing to like experiment with and tweak with. And I think I could do that with the Oloro deck because Oloro is so generic that there's got to be some way I can replace him and maybe add things that might actually shore up some weaknesses of my deck, which would be kind of interesting to find. But I haven't really had the chance to do much on researching that. So
yeah. No, it's neat. And I don't know like how much we have on this. I guess one thing too is it allows you to have like versatile commanders for this stuff. This is kind of there's a point that I have written down here, but I think we've kind of hit on it already. It's just like being able to swap out your commander with the strategy that you have is just so nice too, that it's just good to have later on. But either way with these, I think both strategies are valid to use. But I do want to challenge people, and including myself, to try more bottom-up builds. Because I think the easiest one, and at least maybe it's just me because the way I've done it for so many years, but my go-to, literally when I'm going to build a deck for Commander, the way I start is by going to like EDHREC and just scrolling down the list. Normally, I like scroll really far down because I want to be cool. I want to be a hipster. I want to do different things that everybody's playing. Yeah. So I just scroll really far down on the top, like too, 1,000. Yeah. And then just look around to see what I can find. So I want to do a new thing like that where I don't want to go through there, and I actually want to like look for some combos. So I might there's a website called Commander Spellbook that I really enjoy that doesn't have every combo because it's crazy. That would be insane.
It'd be really hard to do.
It's got a lot of combos in there. So I think over the next few weeks, or my next deck that I'm going to build, I'm going to try to just like look for some fun combos to build around and then try to go from a bottom up method to try and build.
Yeah. Give it a shot. I guess I have one comment on it. I think I want to know what you think makes it like, so for me, the reason I think I did the top down is because I think that's how you're kind of introduced to Magic at the beginning. I think it's probably a lot easier to do. To like, it just makes a lot more sense, right? Like you just have a commander and that's your focus, and then you just put synergy pieces in and blah, you're done.
It's easier to start, I think. I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot easier, and I also think it's like maybe a little taxing to like kind of think about the deck building process from the bottom up sometimes, because you know, you want to do a thing, right? You want your deck to do a certain thing, and a lot of times that certain thing doesn't necessarily have to be your win con, and a lot of times that certain thing might not be a good enough win con, and so like you get in this weird like trap of like, okay, well I need to add a win con that might be separate from that, or maybe they can be intertwined in a way. And then also then you have a problem of like trying to figure out your colors too, right? Like, do I want to like maybe your combo only has 2 colors in it, or maybe you only have a combo in it or some sort of win con that is only 1 color, but you're not going to want to play a monocolor deck necessarily, and you want to include other colors to maybe facilitate it, and then it gets really, I feel like starting with the bottom up could be really complex.
Yeah, I fully agree, and that's like I fully agree that it's going to be more complex, but I do think I think there's ways to do it in a more simple way. Like I think looking up something like and it also depends. Like you can, like I was mentioning earlier with like mutate, you could find just literally, you could have like a counter deck and you want to build around that. You can even literally have a card. You can find a card that you're like, that's a neat interaction. I want to build around this card. And then you look for things that enable that card and enable that game plan. And you just keep kind of attaching from there.
That's
like
exactly
one of the things
what I
we
went
talked
with
about.
The Aetherflux Reservoir. I was like, how do I make this good? And then I saw the Aetherflux Reservoir combo with Bullet Citadel. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm doing black, and it has life gain, so I'm probably going to put white in it. You know. And then another one was Havoc Festival. Have you heard of that one?
I know of the name, but I can't remember what it does.
It's a Rakdos card, but it's Havoc Festival, and it's a 6-cost enchantment that, like, at each player's upkeep, they lose half their life, rounded up.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love the idea of that card, and I was like, I could, with that, with Wound Reflection, you essentially win the game on the whole turn cycle.
Yeah.
So, like, and then you want to build a Rakdos deck at that point, and then you're like, well, how do I do that? So, like, well, like you were saying, like, sometimes you just see a card and you're like, that sounds so fun. How do I build around that?
Yeah. And that's like something we've mentioned so much too in chats before about deck building and everything, is that your card slots are actually so like limiting. It's such a limiting factor in the game that I think an interesting thing that building from the bottom up helps with is that like if you actually stem out from like one card and like you're going, you can actually find a lot of combos from like that, or you can find a lot of pieces for the deck with that, because you're able to find like, okay, I have this one card that I want to build this deck around. You find cards that work with that, and then you're like, okay, well, what cards work with these cards that work with it? And you're kind of all stemming from that, which when all your cards work together, your deck's going to function so much better than if you just have like something we were talking to our friend Jordan that's been on the podcast before about like CEDH, and a lot of cards that are just combo pieces aren't able to be played in CEDH anymore. Like they have to be a good card and a combo piece to be able to be run. And that's something that when you're building from the bottom up like this, it really allows you to like kind of just mesh your cards together a little bit better, because you can just strictly look off of, this is all right, this card, these are the cards I need for this combo. What other combos work with these cards? Let me look at those. And then, it allows you to kind of look at it from a different way, and I think really make more use of the card slots you have.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because you do have a lot of, it's hard to fit everything you want in a deck. It really is.
Yeah. I do think this would be definitely more time consuming. That was one of the benefits I had written down here actually for just doing top down. It is so much quicker.
It's so much easier, and I think there's just something weirdly fun about building around a commander. I think it's a similar thing too, if like you see a commander that just sounds cool. It's similar to like you see a win con that sounds cool, but the commander, you're like, oh, that sounds so fun. I want to do that thing with that command. Because I do it all the time, and I'm one of my like a decks that I'm going to build. My latest one that I'm going to build is Amalia. It's Amalia Benavides. It's a Orzhov commander, and I'm like, it's so commander centric. Like you can't get around it. Like that card is just, it is like the card to play around. So it's like similar to Jury, and it's like, I don't know. There's something fun about it. It's weird. It might not be optimal, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. All right. Well, I think that's all I had for that one. I mean, I think we went over everything. It's It's an interesting topic, and I'd like to hear more from like everybody too, if they have any thoughts on that. If maybe I'm completely wrong and top down is the better way to build.
Yeah.
And even if you think that there's no difference, like
Totally
there's
wrong.
very possible people will think that there's nothing like that makes either one better. Because okay, last final thoughts on this one. There is something where you can theoretically be like top down, and then if you just take more time at the end of the deck building to do the bottom up build, I think it works. Does that make sense?
What if you did like a sandwich, you know, like we go from
It's
like
kind of what I'm going for. Like I think eventually when you're building top
but
down,
you don't like necessarily want it to be your win con, right? It's just kind of there. It's going to facilitate some stuff.
I guess that's what I'm going for. Is like when you build top down,
in the middle. You need something in the middle.
Well, I just think no matter what, if you're building top down, I think you eventually do the bottom up part of it. You just do it way later, and that actually is more difficult. I think is what I'm getting at. Is that when you do that at the end, it just can get really tough, and then you'll want to maybe change your commander, do whatever. It just
because then the card choices get hard because they get pinched, right? Because you're just like, I was playing these cards, and now I gotta fit these in, and I don't want to take this 100%. Out.
Yeah, changed a lot.
Should we talk about our next segment? We're gonna do a Reddit reacts.
Ooh. I don't know. I was just going, double down.
So
all right,
our Reddit react. So it's funny because I was gonna pick. I had another one I was gonna pick. I was thinking about picking because I saw 2 posts on it actually. That was about. It almost kind of fits our topic a little bit. Is about like overloaded commanders, and how people are complaining that some commanders these days are being too overloaded and blah blah blah. But this one sounded a little bit more lighthearted and fun. We could probably it wouldn't be a huge discussion, I don't think.
Okay.
So I pasted the link, and it's our play group is completely illiterate. It's just a funny story that this person ran into when they were at their local game store. They decided to play a good old game of Bracket 2 precons only. Buddy grabs A, his Mothman precon, and we all have a good laugh because Buddy B plays a juice version of it, essentially just like an upgraded version of Mothman that's been terrorizing the table for months now. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty there. They talk about how like what it does essentially, because it does something about like placing 1/1 counters and like rad counters and milling for rad counters. And apparently, the person who grabbed the precon, like Buddy A is about to put 3 1/1 counters on Mothman, but then the 4th player at the table chimes in saying he's reading the ability wrong, and it's supposed to be 1 counter for X creatures instead of like the X amount of counters. And then Buddy B chimes in and is like, well, I've been playing Mothman forever, and like I don't think that's how it works. But then he grabs the card and starts reading it, and it's been a good 5-second pause, and then he realizes, he has this moment of like, I've been playing this card wrong for months. And no one else realized it in his entire play group. And so they had a good laugh about how dumb all of us were for not actually reading the card. The funniest part is that Mothman is pretty much the only deck he plays, and none of us actually took the time to properly read
it. Feel targeted by this Reddit post.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it's not in this play group as much as my other one that I play with up in Cleveland, but I am known as the guy who does not read the card and plays it. I've gotten so much better at it, but for the longest time, I mean, to be fair, when we're playing up there, we're drinking and like whatever, like we're playing and having a good time,
right? Like,
yeah. But I am known specifically as the guy that does just like that's not what that does. I think one person was, I think Jesse was correcting me whenever I was using
it's not supposed to do that,
Mystic Statuary. Every single time, or Mystic Sanctuary, I was putting it in my hand every time.
Oh god,
it goes on top of your library. It does. And there was a point, it got to the point where he literally like watched me as I was doing it, and I went to put it in my hand, and he's like, Ben, top of your library. Like he was waiting for it to happen. Like, okay. That was kind of when I started realizing, okay, I have a problem. I need to read the cards and know what they actually
reading
do.
The card explains the card sometimes.
Yeah.
When you can actually read it. Sometimes it's hard. I get it. Words are hard.
But that's a fantastic story. And I'm happy that it sounds like they were all really lighthearted about it. Like that is just I mean, it's it's hilarious when it happens. It is embarrassing, but it is hilarious when it happens.
Right. I just love those moments, and it's like it just shows like everybody has those moments. So it's like don't feel bad when you make a mistake on how a card works. I was like, we had an example of it. I actually have two examples of it, like where it was one where this one, for example, Chthonian Nightmare, where I thought it was way better than it actually is. And I was like, why the heck is this card so cheap and nobody wants to play it? Like right now it's sitting at like 60 cents. It's Chthonian Nightmare, 1 in a black enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. Then you have to pay X and X amount of energy counters, sacrifice a creature, and then you return it to your hand. Or return the Chthonian Nightmare to the hand. So it keeps bouncing, so you can keep casting it, right? And that's all in this cost. But then you get to return a target creature card with mana value X from the graveyard, which is the amount of energy you paid.
Yeah.
I, for the longest time, was playing this card that I was like, yeah, I mean, I could just sacrifice a creature and then bring that creature back with this and keep bouncing it back and forth with the graveyard. And I was like, this card is busted. Like, why are people not doing this? And then I had a game night at our buddies, and he was like, no, that's not what you have to have a legal target in the graveyard or else you can't even cast this thing. And I was like, what? I can't even do it? Or I could cast it technically because it is an enchantment that comes out.
But you can't activate
the ability. Activate that ability. I was like, oh, that makes that card a little worse. Oh, wow. But to be fair, it's still not terrible in this deck. But I thought that was so funny. I was like, oh, okay, I understand now.
It's happened to me too. That's like, I have some friends of mine that are like the rules, the judges that I've talked to, and I'm just like, every time I get too excited about a card, I like send it to them as kind of like without reacting to it. I'm like, this seems busted. Let me just like send it there. Don't say anything. What do you think of this card? And like, that's what I like normally figure out what actually is going on with it. Cause normally it's not as good as I think it is.
Don't get all excited at first. Like wait for them to respond and tell you it's shit. And be like, yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this feeling though, when it happens the opposite is really nice. Cause I've also had that where I've had a card that I think it was actually the Dargo. The latest commander deck that I've made is a Dargo, EDH bracket 4, whatever one. And, just reading it more and more, it just gets better and better because it's like every time it's like a 7 or it's an 8 cost, I think, where it's like 6 colorless, 1 red, 7 cost creature, and to make his cost cheaper, you can sacrifice artifacts and or creatures to reduce that colorless cost by 2 for each one you sacrifice. So not only can you sacrifice them to him to then play him, but then also he costs 2 less for each thing you've sacrificed that turn. So like you can sacrifice it to him, and then you can also sacrifice, like it just adds up. It just keeps going up. It doesn't go down for that turn.
Right.
So basically, if you have 3 artifacts on board or 3 creatures, whatever, and then a Phyrexian altar, you can infinitely cast him. And it was just one of those things where building that deck, I kept like kind of looking into it, and I was like, oh, this is okay, but this is this.
Like,
and I was
how
like,
do I cast this guy though, like over and over again?
It just keeps it just keeps getting better. Yeah. So yeah, it is nice when it happens the other way, but most of the time it kind of makes you a little bit sadder when you realize it's not as good. But
yeah, and we had a similar thing with the Ocelot Pride or whatever, and I figured out that it copies all tokens created on that turn. And I was like, all tokens, not just the cat token? I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, there's a reason that card's as expensive as it is. It's good.
But yeah, it happens to everybody, and it's just fun to see like people posting stuff about that. Like, I got like around 800 upvotes, so 788 actually, a little under.
But. Bump those numbers up. Let me go react to it real quick.
Give it a little.
There you go. 860 upvotes. Yeah.
You say 860? Oh, did I just not refresh? Oh, I didn't. Okay, that was just old. All right. Anyway, that wraps it up here. I think that's all we have for today. So, like, comment, and subscribe. We forgot to say that earlier, but the like, comment, and subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe. Here, Spencer, cut this in. Don't forget to subscribe. Do it as like a jump scare randomly throughout the video.
Yeah.
But But yeah, yeah. Thanks for being here, guys. We've been Etched Companion, and yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, let us know what you think. Top down, bottom up. Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? I mean, clearly there is. So just tell us which one. That was the game. Yeah.
We'll
All
see
right,
you on the
we've been
next
Etched
episode.
Companion. See you the next one.